Fear causes us to miss God. God is as close as our breath, and any time we need God, we should understand that He is right here. We need to talk to Him the same way that we would our best friend who follows us around all day. Whether we feel God or not, He is with us. We should stop acting on our feelings and act because we need to and because God instructs us to. Courage is action in the midst of fear. We may not feel that we are brave. If we continue to act and do what God wants us to, even when we feel afraid, we are courageous. Fear stops action. Do not let it. Fear causes us to disobey God. When we listen to fear, we cannot do something and we stop even if we sense that God wants us to do it and we are disobeying God. Do not think ourselves into fear, because we can allow something to be thought about over and over, and each time we think about it, we become more and more afraid. Our worst enemy can be our best friend. Sometimes someone may do something that takes something away from us or changes what we have. We feel that this person has destroyed our lives. Sometimes this person may have done us a favor because we are now on a path to God and what He wants for our life. It hurts when it happens, but it turns out good, just as God said it would. Sometimes we just sit and stare at problems instead of Jesus. We just cannot see our way out. If we would just look past the problem to Jesus, He would show us the way. Hebrews 5. For every high priest is taken from among the people and appointed to represent them before God, to offer both gifts and sacrifices for sins. He is able to deal compassionately with those who are ignorant and erring, since He also is subject to weakness. For this reason He is obligated to make sin offerings for Himself as well as for the people. And no one assumes this honor on his own initiative, but only when called by God, as in fact Aaron, who was Moses' brother, was. So also Christ did not glorify Himself into becoming high priest, but the one who glorified Him was God, who said to Him, You are my Son. Today I have fathered you. As also in another place He says, You are a priest forever in the order of Melchizedek. During His earthly life, Christ offered both requests and supplication with loud cries and tears to the one who was able to save Him from death, and He was heard because of His devotion. Although He was a son, He learned obedience through the things that he suffered. So learn obedience. Keep learning from the Bible and from those willing to teach you who know the Bible. Accept guidance in learning about God and His plan for your life. Love is not a feeling, it is a willing. In 2 Timothy 1:7, for God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and self-control. These things show that we are maturing in our love walk with Christ. If we keep refusing to understand God's messages, that He will put us through things that stink, like manure, which stinks, but it also fertilizes to help us grow and produce fruit. And what is fruit? When we become mature in our learning of God's ways, we want to imitate and be like Him. We want to tell others of our experience with God just like we would of a boyfriend or girlfriend or someone we admire and love very much. Luke 13:6 through 9. Then Jesus told the parable. A man had a fig tree planted in his vineyard, and he came for fruit on it and found none. So he went and said to the worker who tended the vineyard, for 3 years now I have come for fruit on this fig tree, and each time I inspect it I find none. Cut it down. Why should it continue to deplete the soil? But the worker answered him, Sir, leave it alone this year too, until I dig around it and put fertilizer on it. Then if it bears fruit next year, very well. But if not, you can cut it down. We don't want God to throw us out because we're not doing what He would have us to do. Instead, we want Him to embrace us because we embrace Him and follow His precepts. So we have the choice of going with our feelings or with God. Be willing to confront. We must be willing to confront our fears and circumstances and work them out with God, to go forward for Him in a spirit of power. 1 John 4:18 says, there is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears punishment has not been perfected in love. Do not be insecure. We must understand that God is not wanting us to live in a state of punishment or fear of punishment. Instead, God wants us to love Him so much that through obedience there will be no punishment. Instead, He wants us to be in a constant state of encouragement and growth. Joshua 1:3. I am handing over you every place you set foot, as I promised Moses. In other words, whatever you need to get the job done for the Lord, He will provide, and He will give you dominion over all you do for Him. God bless.